I heard you fought the hand alone, Jack. It's good to see you in one piece. The others are waiting for you in the war chamber.
Jack, heard you walk right up into a whole thing.
Take up a position at the table, Initiate. There's a lot to talk about.
Any of these possible font shapes look familiar.
None, sir.
The amount of unfamiliar we're dealing with makes me...
Sounds like Zendara filled you in, sir, but I've got about 1,000,000 questions.
Story time, Jack.
And I used to really love story time.
The Shrouded Realm is a world of raw, untempered magic. A magic so formless and wild, it's impossible to master.
Yeah, I think I've been there.
Then the Pentasod came to that world and created the fonts. 5 great anchors that connected the Shrouded Realm to Aveum. The ley lines spread out from these fonts, traveling through both worlds, turning the Shrouded Realm's magic into a resource we could use.
If someone could capture the power of a font, they'd control magic in a way that no Magnus has before.
Like a living ley line tower, capable of drawing magic from the very source, capable of even redirecting it away from other Magni.
Sandrak has done exactly that. We believe he's in possession of a Thrata Cull, a binding stone, an artifact that can control the fonts.
So that's what I saw the hand pull out of the ruins.
That's right. With it, Sandrak will eventually be able to block our access to magic completely. Then the Everwar is over.
Over? As in he takes over Lucium?
As in, he takes over everything.
Sir, respectfully and whatever, you're wrong.
Excuse me?
Oh boy.
You said it yourself. Magic is a resource. Just because Sandrak absorbed a font or whatever doesn't mean his power is endless. It's just that it's probably ginormous. If he found a way to use the Binding Stone, so can we. We can take it back and then...
Make yourself at home.
I bring you good news, sister. Peace is near. Allow me to let you witness it,
A small kindness between friends.
if you would have it.
We were just discussing what the best response would be to your desecration of the fonts.
Had you yet concluded you have none? Let us meet at Nicaea to discuss the terms of your surrender. I hear now you speak for your king. So there should...
Trap!
The boy does not know me. You have my word. The traditions of Aristea will be upheld, without violence. I see a Lucium that genuinely survives this part of history. Can you?
Well, that was horrible. Course of action?
Devin, make sure every last trace of them is really gone. Zendara, I need you to speak to the Watch commanders.
We're meeting Sandrak at Nicaea.
We're outgunned, not outfought. Not yet. Jack, let's talk.
You good?
With the most dangerous man alive, just
I guess you're not.
I'm just saying there's a lot to unpack there.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
Wait, Jack, listen. I know you have a grudge, to put it probably too lightly, with Sandrak for what... But there's no word, really, for the kind of power...
Yeah, I can't make any promises as far as Sandrak's concerned. He and I got history.
Are you serious? Kirkan and Sandrak worked alongside each other for nearly 20 years. That's history. Was it longer? Sandrak used to plan battle operations in this very room before he went to the other side.
Back to Rasharn's side. But he's Rasharnian. How did all that work?
Long story, but my point is, this room's got more history with Sandrak than you do. Just don't let your emotions get the better of you. I'm sorry. I really need to get it together. Foreign magics are difficult to scrub out of a breach zone on the best of days.
Sir? About Nocia?
Definitely not now, Initiate. The Grand Magnus wants to speak to you.
Right. I'll come back.
Don't.
Is Indara right? We're going to actually walk into Sandrak's trap.
It's not a trap. Sandrak fashions himself after the nobility of Aristea. He'll honor the tradition of Nocia as neutral ground.
Sir, I know you don't plan to surrender.
Not even a little bit. We'll take him by surprise, hit him with everything we got, and hope the power of that binding stone of his is found wanting.
Okay, so it's our trap, then.
The Immortals can't let Sandrak take control of magic, Jack. We have to take our chances.
Speaking of the Immortals and Sandrak having been an Immortal and you never telling me your fellow Immortal.
I figured this was coming. There's not a lot of time here. Safe to say, it's better if we table it. If we survive Nocia, we can talk about it again. Now, a few pieces need to fall into place for this ambush to work. I need you to take this to Captain Selko.
A portal stone. Any message to go along with it?
Selko will know what to do. You'll find him in Lordsfell along with a battalion of our soldiers.
Understood. I'll head out now. Ambassador Damley?
Hello, Jack.
So what does the Royal Advisor do with the Palathon exactly?
On paper, I'm here to uphold the interests of the royal family and counsel the Grand Magnus on the Immortals' role in the Everwar.
I hear a but in there.
But, since Kirkin has enough authority in Lucium now to ignore me, I just skulk about, raiding the Palathon's wine collection and writing spicy letters of fabricated intrigue to the court back home.
I don't buy it.
You caught me. Since the Grand Magnus refuses to let me in, I must resort to simply spying on all of you. I'll be very discreet.
How widely known is it that Sandrak was an immortal?
Too widely for the Crown's liking. Still, given his record and years of service to Lucium, it's hard to hide it without resorting to somewhat amoral magic.
I spent 5 years in the Lights Army with Kirkin as my mentor, and I had no idea.
Losing him was a blow. He was a hero to Lucium. Rasham's strongest son, fighting against the corruption of his homeland. Many thought he would win us this war.
Until he became the war. So why did he quit and rejoin Rasharn?
Only one person in the Palathon knows that, and I can guarantee you she won't tell.
I have to go on, Beth. Magister?
Fred!
House Belming. That's a military house, right? Sounds familiar.
More military adjacent. I'm in the Hinters business.
The what now?
The Hinters? Apologies. That's a fancy euphemism for fertility fields. My house holds the contracts to construct and maintain all the Hinters for the northeasterly estates of Lucium. The military is our primary customer, of course.
Okay. Act like I'm from Saren and try one more time.
Hinters are stretches of land constructed beneath ley line crossings. The great families use them to influence their offspring's chances of being born with magic, which in turn guarantees that they remain the great families.
So you're telling me that being born with magic is manufactured?
Of course it is. Well, not always. And there are the unforeseen, such as yourself. There's a chance for everyone.
All right, Belming. lordship.
Jack?
Being a Viscount, that means you have a claim to the throne, right?
I'm 15th in line and never getting closer. Realistically, you have as much claim as I do.
Uh-huh, sure. What's it like being part of a dynastic house?
It's bad for one's health.
Come on.
Oh, I'm serious. Why else would so many of us train as assassins? There's the ever war between kingdoms, and then there's the little war known in every court in Aveum. They're the same except for scale. Magni obsessed with fighting other Magni for the rule of magic. I have to watch my back on two fronts.
Talk to you later, Hauser. Silas,
Hello, sir.
now that Yothium is secured, do you have your reassignment?
You heard the Grand Magnus at your ceremony, sir. We're either meant for the front, or we're marching north to help Lavenry. The brass is still working out the details.
Have a preference?
The front, sir. Even though that's an airship over the wound and I have no stomach for flight. My mother and brothers are stationed there. Trenchers by trade, the lot of us. The Magnus that owns our debts likes his lightless to fight his families. Has enough pull with the Light's army to ensure it happens.
So how did you end up here?
A clerical error, most like. Things got a bit scrambly when it was apparent Sandrak really meant it this time, going for the ley line tower. But, this way I get to tell Mom I fought alongside the hero of Yothium, right?
How many lightless does your Magnus oversee?
Can't count them all by now. He's been taking on the debts of hundreds of us from the other Magni for years. As I understand it, having an implied private army within the army is a mark of prestige in the dynastic houses. You know, like you'll be doing now that you're an immortal.
Yeah, no, I wasn't planning on it.
Are you serious? Debt collection seems wonderful to me. I mean, us lightless have been trained at the country's expense, and our arms and armor aren't free, are they? It adds up fighting for one's king.
You know that's fucking insane, right? As a general line of thinking.
Huh. Is it? But then, who am I to question the ways of the Magni, sir? I might even be accused of being unpatriotic.
I'd better go. Morphe?
Candle.
So with your, special sight, do you know who wins the Everwar?
Depending on when we look. Sometimes. Malbiage is winning it now against the Kel. Oh, we're 12,000 years ago, when sigils were worn as crowns.
Not so much then.
Eternal things, like the Everwar or the Aristea. Time runs out of room to record them. Room and desire. When things get too old, time loses interest.
Yeah, I don't... You know, that sounds weird, right? No offense.
Oh, it's very weird. Aggravating, too. We want to know if Rashan secures a decisive victory as much as you do. Time's just not paying attention to it.
I've been meaning to ask you about your mask.
It has nothing to do with Rashan's Order of Masks. They are little more than a broken cult, playing with trinkets and damnation.
Oh, whoa, I totally wasn't gonna make that connection.
The Akel settled along the western rain valleys long ago. This was before the Gaterond, the cataclysm that claimed them all, except for me.
Hold up, I think you might have skipped ahead.
Oh, we were talking about our tally mask? It shifts through all the faces of my people, each and every one. You're unable to see it, of course. We were the only Yakala to survive. So we wear the rest of their faces in memory.
Then it's like the wall of names, your mask. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you.
It's only a mask, Candle. We could never get upset.
Good shadow. I don't think I have a spell for that. Kirkin didn't say what that thing does.
Probably better you don't know, sir.
Is it though?
If you got captured.
Sure. It's just, if I knew the whole plan, it could be helpful, since I'm like, part of the plan. Am I right?
You have a point.
You aren't going to tell me, are you?
Nope.
Great. See you around, Captain.
Jack, Kirkin's asking for an update.
I delivered the portal stone to Captain Selko. What's next?
Rendezvous with the rest of us at Nicaea. Our parley with Sandrak is imminent.
Parlay.
What?
Never heard anyone actually use that word.
It's the nerves.
Uh-huh. See you soon. Guess no see ya up ahead. Game face, Jack. Can I call dibs?
Not the time, Jack.
So, what's the plan?
Dunno. This all feels a bit improvisational, if I'm being honest.
You bring no banner?
Didn't feel the need.
I held a small hope you might see reason. Yet you remain the same Kirkin that made me abandon the Immortals years ago. Obsessed with victory, stranger to compromise. Your eye ever bent towards the world's ruin.
And you just want to save it.
I can. With this. Its mastery over the fonts means I can end the war.
You mean win the war? By turning the rest of us defenseless?
In our every meeting, a yipping pup.
Jack's right, though. You're not worthy of that power, Sandrak. Your airships bomb the free cities of the East and then wonder why they resist you now? The last order that surrendered to Rasharn, you burned their ambassadors alive. If my eye is ever bent towards the world's ruin, it's because I'm trying to stop the man causing so much of it.
Please, don't make me do this.
Captain Selko. You went mad. You didn't abandon us. You were exiled. And I'm still paying the price for not killing you.
Remember, this blood is on your hands.
It's the wound!
He's moving it!
We have to go! Now! Fall back!
Devin,
Jack, glad you're on your feet. That could have been so much worse. Took ages, but Zendara was finally able to dig you out of the rubble.
oh, not her. I rather would have died. I'm never living that down.
Nope. Never.
How many did we lose?
Considering Sandrak just dropped a city into the wound, surprisingly few. But enough to have made his point. Kirkhan's left for Lavenry to talk with the king. He wants a full surrender after Nocia. There's even talk that Kirkhan's emergency powers may be rescinded.
So who's in charge?
Zendara. And I'll warn you, she's in a bit of a mood.
Kind of on brand for her.
I heard that!
Whoops.
Meet us in the war chamber, Jack. We've come to the conclusion that we're in desperate need of a plan.
Your lordship.
Jack?
I didn't see you at Nocia when we confronted Sandrak. Were you there?
Answered your own question there, no?
I mean, maybe that was the point. You not being seen. Like you were covering us or something.
Considering what happened, perhaps I should have been. But no, I was away taking care of a few things. An ambassador of Kylay caught wind of the meeting in Nicaea. Thought they would show up with a delegation to show their support for Lucium's surrender.
Yeah, they didn't make it.
Funny that.
Talk to you later, Hauser. Ambassador Damley?
Hello, Jack.
I hear Kirkhan's the only one keeping us from surrendering to Rasharn.
You wound me, Jack. Who do you think convinced the king to speak with her in the first place? After Nocia, confidence in the Palathon's ability to wage this war...
Got shaken a bit?
It cratered.
Ouch.
Kirkhan and I have our differences, but we both agree that it's crucial for the king to have faith in a Lucian victory. Ask Kalthis what Sandrak's peace looks like.
I have to go, Ambassador. Silas.
Hello, sir.
Kirkhan was your father's commanding officer at Sundown 10?
Indeed she was, sir, ages ago. What a harrowing experience that was, by all accounts. My father's still shaken by it. Sundown 10's one of the few battles where Rasharn deployed its Archon battalion. Even though it was a Lucian victory, due to your Grand Magnus, of course, they say the Archons were granted rights of citizenship in Rasharn after that.
Their constructs are citizens?
Just the Archons, sir, for their valor in battle. They're allowed free worship, of what I can't begin to imagine, and have the vote so long as they serve in the Rasharnian armed forces for a span. That's what some of my squad mates used to say anyway, the older ones. It could just be a lightless soldier's tale. You know how fanciful they can be when it comes to ideas of rights and opportunities and such.
That shouldn't have to be fanciful.
Now you're just pulling my leg, sir.
I'd better go. Orphe?
Candle. Sadly, we could not. The Thradakul is an Aristean art.
Wait, did you just read my mind?
We can't do that. Such magic was outlawed at Atheron.
Okay, but then how did you...
Oh, of course. You're just catching up to the discussion you started. As we were saying, Nocia's fate was hidden from us, as was Sandrak's breach of the war chamber. The Thradakul is an Aristean artifact. Those always put tiny perforations in time. Look too close to pasts or futures in their proximity. Pages get torn away.
Huh. Maybe that's how it lay hidden for so long. Seers can't see it clearly.
Nor scrying glass. Sometimes, however, holes in time have movements. Context. Tilt your eyes and predictions can occur. That's how a lot of our counterintelligence is done against enemies using chronoflage. It's unfortunate that no such methods would have worked at Nocia.
Good chat, Orphe. Magister?
Friend!
You must want to be an immortal or you wouldn't keep fake dying. But why do you want to be one?
Tut tut. Nothing about the dying feels fake. It's a psychological horror show. Feeling the pain of your flesh burning off while also being slightly annoyed with yourself as it happens. Ugh, the dissonance of those moments. It scars the psyche, Jack. I do not recommend.
Which means you have a really good reason for wanting the job.
Of course I do. I want to serve Lucium.
Nope, not that one.
One mustn't equivocate, I see. Fine. I reckon it's expected of me, right? Despite the family business and all its wealth, I'm still a scion of a line of Magni, and share the name of a great house. We're not allowed to avoid the order, or we risk bringing shame to our forebears.
All right, but